kiddos, here we are in the archives of the Rankin Red Devils, here with the Red Devil Broadcast Network. And let's talk about the bracket that's going to make up the best football teams in the history of Rankin. So we've got our bracket set up right here, and we're going to have a week one. In week one, you're going to have a matchup of the 1988 team versus the 1990 team. After that, we're going to have the 1985 team versus the 1993 team. Then the 92 team versus the 1968 team. And 1980 versus 1999. Now, waiting over there in round two, a few teams did draw some buys out here. So waiting on their opponent is going to be 1981. We'll also see a contest between 1974 and 1995. 76 is waiting on an opponent. Then you've got 2000 versus 1973. You've also got 89 waiting on an opponent. Then 1955, yes folks, 1955 versus the 91 Red Devils. The 1972 team is going to be waiting on an opponent. And then the 1931 Rankin Red Devils against the 1997 Rankin Red Devils. Folks, this is the bracket that's going to make up the who is who. And these are all the teams that are in the bracket right now. Now, for our first round action we're going to get into, let's take a visit a few years back and talk about 1998 and 1990. In the first round, 1988 versus 1990, and I'm going to be really excited in all of these. I might even overuse the phrase, this was a great team. But folks, let's just get this out of the way. Every team in here on the list are our Rankin greats. It's going to be fantastic. 1988 Rankin Red Devils. They had an overall record of 12-1. They would beat Fort Davis 22-7. Grand Falls 27-0. Sanderson 42-0. Fort Davis 40-0, Water Valley 28-7, Irion County 27-7. They beat the Ira Ann Braves 41-13. They beat Garden City 26-6. They beat Sterling City 33-0. They beat Robert Lee 55-7. Then start the playoffs. They got Grand Falls right out of the gate, had already beat them once. In area, they go on and whoop them 48-0. Then they play Follett. Believe it or not, folks, Follett was a regional game back in those days, and they beat Follett 28-7. Now came the big test, a huge contest against White Deer. Now in White Deer, they had a sophomore out there. His name was Zach Thomas. Zach Thomas would go on and have a great career with Texas Tech University, and then go on and have a phenomenal career with the Miami Dolphins, and ending with the Dallas Cowboys. And that's a name I know a lot of you know out there. Well, him and his brother played for White Deer that year. Rankin would lose this contest 20-35 in a heartbreaker, and a lot of people were wondering, could Rankin have won that game? There was some tomfoolery, there was some trickery in that game. And one of the plays I do want to talk about is White Deer threw out a little pass, had a little gain. All their players, coaches, everybody ran onto the field. They start celebrating, jumping up and down, having a great time. All of a sudden, they go back into the huddle, run a play. One of the kids looks like he's standing on the sideline, but he's facing in this direction towards the ball. Just standing there, looks like he's on the sideline. By the time Rankin realized what happened, they called Hut, throw the ball down the field, kid catches it, and there's a lead right there. And I remember going into this contest, we were reading the newspaper on the way there, and that it was actually predicted to be a 13-13 tie. Rankin would win on penetrations, but not on this night in the history of a little town that loves this game. That's another one more almost. But guys, I'm looking at the annual here, and it says, say it loud, say it proud. 1988 football champs is an amazing team. They had a lot of great things. Coach Troy Kennedy from Rankin, Texas got Coach of the Year that year. And I want to say something. Troy Kennedy started TCB here in Rankin. That old take care of business. It all started right here. They had some great ball players on this team. I'm going to name some of these off. Some of them may be named twice because they got honors more than once. We're talking about Gabe Hyatt, Joe Abelos, Brian McCravey, Junior Helmers, James Watson. Guys, I'm talking about some great ball players. There was a Kevin Braden on that team, and I want to talk about the McCravey brothers on this team. There's an old story out here that the only reason those two twins didn't kill anybody is because they weren't big enough to do it. We're talking about guys that weighed about 120, 125 pounds, and they hit people with everything they got. And it wasn't just the little guys. They were laying the big boys out. There was a lot of guys out there in those days that were looking for those little Red Devil shooters out there. Those McCravey brothers were the real deal. Now, this line in 1980, the 1988 team was one of the biggest, best lines out there, and they had some monsters out there. Some guys we haven't even talked about yet. You know, you got your Hollingsworth, you got your Clint Templeton. One guy that I want to talk about probably didn't get any credit in here was Michael Rojas. Michael Rojas, not only a great football player, but a great boxer back in the day. Some people said he put Rankin on the map historically for boxing, did great things out there. Michael Rojas, so not one of those guys you want to run across, just a good, tough Rankin kid out there. And then you got these Braden boys out there too, and I talked about them. You've got Randy Braden, Kevin Braden on this team. Just a solid team. Great bunch out there. And a guy that we're going to talk about a lot more as we go on through this, Kirk Kennedy, one of the finest quarterbacks to play for Rankin. And also in this group going to be Doug Braden. We'll get back to Doug Braden on another year. But just really great things happening right here. This is the 1988 football team, and I hope we get to see a lot more of them. The 1990 Rankin Red Devils. 1990, they went 9-3. They beat Forsan 34-0. They beat Garden City 27-14. They lost in a surprise loss to Van Horn 28-36. And a big upset at home in Rankin. They then lost to Ira N 7-14. They would go on all the way out to Presidio, play those Blue Devils, and they would beat them 41-12. They beat Wink 27-0. They beat Fort Davis 45-6. They beat Grand Falls 23-16. They beat Sanderson 27-7. And in the playoffs, as those got started, they played Plains. They beat Plains 24-13 in the area round. They then played Farwell in a close game in a regional matchup. They beat Farwell 17-14. And then came the Monday Moguls, folks. Monday was as good as they came. Could have been one of the teams of the 90s. Great teams out there for the Monday Moguls. Rankin would lose to them. As good as this team was, would lose 0-28 in the quarterfinals. And the quarterfinals seems to be one of those places where Rankin has a lot of trouble. And I want to read to you some of the names off this 1990 roster. Number 10, Roy Abelos. Number 11, Kirk Kennedy. We talked about Kirk. Kirk, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play in Rankin. Number 12, Trey Pogue. Number 15, JoJo Guerra. Now, JoJo Guerra was groomed by Kennedy, and as he was prepared and made his way up the ranks, JoJo became a great quarterback here for Rankin, but it all starts back with that number 11, Kirk Kennedy. You got number 20, Francisco Gonzalez. Francisco, one of the smaller athletes, but very smart, very athletic, great little ball player right there. Number 24, Justin Seabolt. Justin Seabolt, Rankin would lose him after this season. Now, the thing about Justin Seabolt is, as a freshman, he was knocking out seniors on kickoffs. Justin was that wild man, like a missile down the field. He's going to hit you with his face mask. He's going to hit you with his helmet. He was laying people out at 14 years old. He was a force to be reckoned with. Unfortunately, they would move away, and he would move to New Mexico and do great things out there. Joey Varela. Joey Varela, just one of those guys, always in the right place, right time. Athletic guy. They say he had the softest hands in the business. You could throw anything up there, and Joey Varela would catch it. And one of the reasons we don't know Joey as a quarterback or one of those greater athletes in Rankin is his junior year. He had a lot of knee problems, had a really bad junior year, but came back, fought through it, Red Devil style, did his thing. Jeff Jones, number 26, that's somebody that we know a lot about. He is the head coach for one of our foes over there, the Garden City Bearcats. We love Jeff. Jeff did a lot of great things out there, has a lot of heart, a lot of good things right there in Jeff Jones. Carlos Garcia, number 30. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you, you talk about tough kids. If you want to win championships, if you want to win football games, you've got to have those mid-kif kids. Carlos Garcia, guys, if you've never heard the name, you're going to hear it now. This guy was as tough as a $2 steak. He was a great ball player, great tackler. If you wanted him to run the ball, he could run the ball harder than anybody out there. If you wanted him to tackle, he was laying people out. Carlos Garcia, great addition to this team out there. Not enough good things said about him. Number 32, Luis Gonzalez, speedback for the Rankin Red Devils. Number 35, Ronaldo Ramos, just one of those muscle men knocking people out. You know, we got the young guys that were coming up, Justin Presky, Kevin Braden. Number 44, Gabe Hyatt. Gabe Hyatt was like the quiet professional out there. He was the guy that went out there and just got the job done. Big shoulders, good size on him. You had Glenn Underwood out there playing, getting his things done. A lot of great history there with Glenn Underwood and his family. Number 54, Boo Boo Armendariz. Just a freshman out there, best seat in the house. Got to watch a lot of football that year. Number 56, Don Lane. Number 60, Clint Templeton. Templeton family, longtime residents out here. Clint Templeton was a dog back in the day. So if he's telling you football stories, listen in, folks. That was one of the better linemen out here. You got Keith Braden. He was a big-time up-and-comer. Number 62, Russell St. Clair. Robert Hollingsworth, number 64, guys. Robert Hollingsworth, big body, big red-headed machine out there getting the job done. He kind of falls through in the cracks of history, but man, solid lineman. You got Baylor Walker, up-and-comer coming up on this team. Number 71, Dean Braden. Those Bradens always out there able to play the game well. Number 72, Mark Avalos, hometown kid. Great lineman, doing good things out here. Number 73, Ramon Garcia, one of the big boys out here. And I remember being on the field when Sul Ross University came out here with a guy in the suit to recruit Ramon. Ramon did get some looks out there, guys. This was the big body lineman that some of these colleges out here were looking for. Number 74, Michael Torres. Michael Torres, great sense of humor. Michael Torres was the life of the party. Michael Torres, the life of the locker room. And on the football field, Michael Torres was a problem. Guys, I'm looking at this team and wondering how they don't have a state championship. But man, sometimes you can be this great and it just doesn't fall for you. Let's go in here. We've also got James Watson. Guys, you want to know the tippy top of the ladder for receivers that ever came out of Rankin, Texas? I'm going to go ahead and call it here, and I know other people got opinions, but James Watson, the finest receiver to ever come out of Rankin, Texas. We've also got Tim Adelot and Robert Guadarrama, up-and-comer for the Rankin Red Devils. Chris Lucky, up-and-comer. Edmundo Ray, up-and-comer. And back then, number 85, Alessandro Natalucci, the foreign exchange student from Italy. They never could get him to kick field goals. He kept kicking under the crossbar. Kind of a funny story there. But, man, some great things on this football team. Coaching staff was Troy Kennedy, head coach. You had Raul Sanchez, Vince Fitzgerald, Shannon Hooker, and Gary Durham. And, you know, you talk about honors on this team. They went all the way through the gamut. You know, we're talking James Watson, Kevin Braden, Gabe Hyatt, Kurt Kennedy, Clint Templeton, Arnaldo Ramos, Joey Varela, Carlos Garcia, Francisco Gonzalez, Kurt Kennedy once again. And that's just the offense, guys. A lot of these guys turned it around, did it on defense. Now, we talked a lot about the 1990 Rankin Red Devils. They're going to go to war. Here we go. I hope you're as excited as I am as we punch this up. Now, we're going to show you some historical photos here of some of these teams, some of the action going on out there. But, guys, we're going to punch it in our computer. Kendra Davis in the background. Are you ready? 1988 versus 1990. It's going down. Here we go. And the winner is the 1988 Rankin Red Devils. And I know these 1990 guys got something to say about that, but the algorithm has it 1988 is going to move on with a 56-8 victory. Now, guys, we're going to punch this up. We're going to leave this there for you on the bracket to see. We want to hear what you have to say about it out there in Red Devil land, guys. And this just isn't for home. This is all those Red Devils all over the world looking at this on Facebook or whatever account you're looking on. Let us know what you think about this matchup. Our next matchup is going to be 1985 versus 1993. We'll be right back at you.